Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. Today is Tuesday, the 13th of August. Hopefully you all are having a good day. It is a gloomy day here where I am, very just cloudy and meh. But I hope you all are doing well out there. I am very excited, despite the bad weather, about some announcements that happened over the weekend. So, yeah, weekend at the D23 convention in Anaheim for Disney. Obviously, they were talking about Lorcana there. Ravensburger had a booth. It looks like they did some sort of presentation. And you can see on the screen here that it appears Pixar is coming to Lorcana in 2026. This is something that I've been hoping for and waiting for. I never really understood what Disney IPs Ravensburger can use, what they can't. Pixar was number one on my list of things like that I wish would come under this umbrella. Toy Story, I'm a huge fan of it. Came out when I was a kid, loved it then, and then as I've now have a family and kids, love watching the movies with my kids. Definitely one of my probably my favorite Pixar movie. And they even have a new one coming out later this year, or a new Toy Story coming out in a couple years rather. And so moves like this are just what continue to make me so very excited to be involved with Lorcana at this time and be collecting it and be playing it and just being in this ecosystem. When I talk about like IPs that bridge the gap of like, I'm collecting this stuff, we're opening these packs as a family. I have these movies like Frozen that I've watched with my 5-year-old daughter hundreds of times, and then we open these packs of cards, and even if it's just a common Elsa or a common Anna, like my daughter immediately knows who they are, and she's happy and she's giddy, and she can look at it and take it in, like, and then me as a father getting to see that and share these connections. It's magical, honestly. And then the idea that we're bringing Pixar in, once again, I was 5 when the original Toy Story came out. The new Toy Story is set to come out in 2026. My son will then be 5. My daughter will be 7. Both of them love Toy Story. Like being able to watch that new Toy Story that's going to be coming out in 2026. Obviously, we've watched the old ones, right? We've watched them all, like I said, hundreds of times. But then getting to watch the new one, and then maybe a new set is released within Lorcana in 2026, and Woody and Buzz and all of them are included in it. Like that's going to be magical, and that is the power of Lorcana. Being able to span that gap of when I was 5 watching Toy Story to then 2026 being able to open this with my 3 kids. My newborn daughter at that point will be 2 or 3. Like she'll be able to at least like take it in. She'll have seen Toy Story a lot by then. Like that's really cool. Like that's just like magical stuff. That's going to be things that me as a father, like I have memories, I will have memories of that forever, right? It's bringing me very happy times. I still remember the first Lorcana pack we ever opened with my daughter, and she saw those cards and she was just like, it lit up her face, and that's what triggered. And then now 9 months later, here we are fully entrenched. But that was literally how it all started for me. Like I heard about Lorcana, hadn't been involved in TCGs in 20 years. Went out, got a pack, opened it with my daughter, and then it clicked. She loved it, and in turn I loved it, and here we are. And I think that is just the power of Lorcana. In my opinion, it's a two-headed race at this point, if you will. Now, when I say this, I get so much hate because I'm so bullish on Lorcana, and I shouldn't say so much hate. I get hate. I don't want to overblow it. I get negative comments about how bad Lorcana is and how bad Disney is and blah blah blah. And look, I'm not the biggest like Disney guy. Like I didn't go to the parks growing up. I live in the Midwest. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't have money for vacations. We weren't going to the parks all the time. So like say whatever you want about Disney, but once again the connection that Lorcana brings between like myself and my kids, like that's undeniable. And I feel like whether it's Magic, whether it's Yu-Gi-Oh, whether it's One Piece, whether it's Pokemon, etc. Like I think Lorcana being successful is good for all of them. First off, number two, no IP, literally no IP, not even Pokemon, has the ability to bring in new customers to the TCG space like Lorcana does. So whether you're Pokemon, whether you're One Piece, whether you're Magic, etc., you should want Lorcana to succeed. So that's number two. And then number three, I just think that when you look at like the total amount of IPs that are involved within Lorcana thus far, like this thing is like Ravensburger has done so many things well from never doing a TCG to now being a year in, and there's like I literally just feel like it's a rocket ship, and so I like to kind of when that happens, I like to take a step back and just kind of go back to the fundamentals. It's usually not as good as you think it is. It's usually not as bad as you think it is. Just as a general concept, I do believe that. But when you look at what's included here, like Pokemon, when we look at top highest grossing media franchises, Pokemon is at 98 billion according to this Wikipedia page, right? Take it for what it is, but I'm just going to act like it's true. Mickey and Friends 61 billion right behind Pokemon. It's like, 30ish billion behind Pokemon. You have Winnie the Pooh, it's already including Lorcana, so now it's already higher valuation than Pokemon. You have the Disney Princess IP, which is half of Pokemon by itself. Add that on top. As we go down, we then start to add in some of the other IPs that were well, obviously Lion King's included, but then you acquire something like Toy Story, bring that in 2026. That is a whole new massive demographic of people who are going to be involved in Lorcana because of the fact that Woody and Buzz and all of these characters are going to have their own cards, and they're going to see the marketing, and it's going to just spark enough curiosity to get them in. And then as this compounds time over time and they get in because of Toy Story, and they saw Woody on a pack at Target and their son was like, oh, Woody, 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 so they spent $5 on a pack of cards. They open it and then they see all these cards, and then they look and see things from their childhood or other IPs that they associate with. No TCG has the reach that Lorcana does, and it's an English first country that's expanding into other markets versus the other way around. Every other TCG other than Magic is a Eastern based company expanding to the West, so they get priority. They're the main focus. Completely opposite here, which gives it another tip in the cap for someone like myself who wants to have the ability to enjoy all of the cards and have me be a priority, right? Rather than someone who speaks a language that I don't understand and prints cards in languages that I can't read. Not that that's bad. I do collect some like Japanese Pokemon, for example. But at the end of the day, I would rather them be English. Like I would rather the English cards just get the really cool art. But that doesn't happen a lot of the times. And so when you think about some of those different indicators or fundamentals, like there's just so much here that is pushing Lorcana in the right direction. And I understand prices are down on singles and things like that. We look at like the Elsa and it's down to like 800, 900 near mint versus at like 1500. Like I really, really, and I need to say this with the proper context, this is incredibly risky, and you should never overextend yourself for a collectible. You need to take time, even though there's all this hype and I'm feeling really good, right? You need to take a step back. You need to take a deep breath. You need to realize that this stuff isn't going to happen overnight. But I just feel like we are in such a good buying opportunity from a collector's point of view when you once again bring in all these fundamentals and think about 2026. That's two years from now, depending on when the Toy Story or Pixar stuff is released within Lorcana. Let's say a year and a half, 2 years. A year and a half from now, 2 years from now, those people that come in, they might want to get the Elsa. And at that point, there's most likely not going to be any restocks. There's not going to be reprints. That supply is going to be dried up. So when you think about total population counts and things like that in this game growing, right now it's a very common perception that Lorcana is printed into the ground, or it's basically like people are saying that there's so many cards that it's worthless. You have to take into account that it is printed into the ground for the current demand, right? So right now there's I think 1,700 PSA 10 Elsas roughly. Where's she at? Elsa Spirit of Winter, 1,800 PSA 10 Elsas. Gets a gem grade a ton of the time. 2,500 total have been graded. Let's say this population, it could end at 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. I don't know. I doubt it gets that high, but let's just say for argument's sake, it ends at 5,000. So it somehow over triples from where it's at now, which once again, I do not think that's going to happen, but let's just use that as an example. That's still less than half of the PSA 10 Moonbryons that are out there. And so when you start to think about the total reach of, and that's just English Moonbryons, English printed Moonbryons. Whenever you start to think about the current demand versus what maybe is to come in association with some of the population counts and things like that, like these cards, they have very, very serious potential from a collector's point of view versus going into, a game like Pokemon, which it is going to continue to evolve. It is going to continue to grow. Pokemon's a great IP. It's a great franchise. But at the end of the day, that 11,000 number of Moonbryons, which is going to continue to go up, that's a significant additional chunk, it's 6x the current um, quantity of Elsa. Like, you start to think about the current, it's printed into the ground for the current demand, but that demand is going to go up and the supply isn't. And so then you start to think about, like, okay, well, should I really be selling any of these? And that's something that, myself personally, I've been a big proponent lately of buying raw and then like selling off some of my PSA 10s, like some of my like Elsas, for example. Like they get a gem at grade so often, like almost 80% of the time. It's like, well, okay, I got in at a very good time. Like I acquired my Elsas for $500, get them graded, sell them for 1,000, then that's good money. You can use that to then go buy more raw Elsas, etc. So I've been doing a little bit of that lately, selling the PSA 10 copies, keeping the raw copies. Um, and I just feel like part of me, because I am a collector first, like I don't really care about the flipping thing. Like it's nice because I'm using that to grow my collection, because there's like Ursul's Return enchanteds that I want, there are Shimmering Skies enchanteds that I want, there's still like a couple Inklings I'm pretty good on. I don't think there's really much that I want there, but using that method of buying raw for cheap, grading, selling the premium to then use those funds to acquire more raw. Like I've been doing that for a while, and it's been fruitful. I've got we've grown amassed a pretty good collection here. But at the end of the day, part of me is like, why would I even worry about like selling it? Just take my time acquiring the new cards that I want, right? And don't sell the PSA 10 versions, because if I do believe, like, and I truly do in my heart of hearts, that Lorcana is going to grow exponentially over the next 5 to 10 years. Well, that PSA 10 Elsa that I sold for 1,000, let's say, like that card could very easily be worth like 10,000, or maybe not 10,000, but maybe 5,000, right? Like who knows what the true upside is? But so part of me is just like, I don't know, like why would I sell anything? Is kind of what I wrestle with. And so I'm curious to hear your guys' opinion if you're in the same vein as me and you've been listening to me rant for 12 minutes about kind of the future of Lorcana. Where do you sit on the guidelines of selling versus holding? Because I do think these cards are going to increase in value over time. I feel like we're at a low right now in terms of selling. Like I said, I do like to get the premium on the PSA 10 because so many of the cards grade so well. Cards that I'm not selling would be like the Cinderella from set 2 or the Rockstar Stitch set championship. I feel like some of these cards are truly going to go up more than others. So that's kind of where I'm placing my bets, if you will. But cards like the Elsa that get a gem at grade almost 80% of the time, like I'll take the premium, go buy another Elsa, buy a couple, get another gem at 10, right? Like so I can use those funds. But once again, at the end of the day, that gem at 10 Elsa is probably going to be worth significant money in the future, given that that's kind of the chase. It's the grail. And so I just struggle with like, what do you sell? What do you not? Obviously, you kind of like in this collecting space, you really do want to rotate your capital to acquire more cards. So I don't know. It's just it's a double-edged sword, right? Because there's just an immense amount of customer acquisition funnel that Ravensburger and Lorcana have in front of them that honestly selling any card right now could be a very much a fool's errand. But at the same time, you don't know when that's going to happen, and rotating that capital will help you increase your collection overall. So once again, it's a double-edged sword, but that's something that I struggle with in terms of, why would I sell this when I can literally just continue to enjoy it with my family, set it up on the wall, whatever, and then in 5 to 10 years, it's most likely going to probably be 5 to 10x what it is now, in my opinion. And so, like, why would I sell? But so it's just that double edged sword. I'm going to quit beating that point to a pulp. But it's just something that I struggle with internally. But that is, overall with Lorcana, I just feel like there's so much opportunity still. Once again, expanding to other markets, bringing in these new IPs. I don't know what the deal is with like Star Wars. I know they have a ton of other additional like cards, and they're already involved with some of that stuff. Who knows if that could be brought under the umbrella in like 2029 or something, right? Like who knows what those licensing rights look like. If Lorcana continues to expand and grow like they are now, like they're getting Pixar in 2026, there's no limit to say they're not going to get Star Wars in the future or something like that. Like I feel like that's probably something that truly is possible. Now I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy, so that doesn't necessarily move the needle for me, but that doesn't mean that Star Wars isn't massive and wouldn't move the needle for a huge population of the world. So just overall, just very, very excited for the future. Just off the back of this Pixar release, I feel like Ravensburger, for the amount of hate that they've gotten, for whatever reason. Like, I feel like they are just navigating this space as a first time TCG manufacturer to an absolute T. I think they are printing a perfect amount of boxes. I think that the fact that just because a few boxes go on sale after it's out of rotation, like, that's a normal ecosystem stuff. Like, that's nothing to worry about. Anyone who's getting concerned about that, like, just doesn't understand how these things work. And I think that the current supply is going to look like it wasn't printed at all when we think about the future demand. And so that's, once again, getting back to where I struggle with selling anything. That's where that problem arises. Now, looking at the Pixar IP exclusively, we have Toy Story that obviously came out in 1995. We have A Bug's Life, another huge movie from my childhood. Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc. Under that umbrella, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, another really cool IP. Cars, Ratatouille, Wall-E, Up, Brave, awesome. Love that movie with my daughter. That's one of my favorite like princess movies, we'll call it. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily consider, one of my favorite princess movies. She's a badass. Monsters University, The Good Dinosaur, Inside Out. Like, there's so many good IPs in here, especially just like think about the current like landscape of the game. And you got to think about this: the Ravensburger team already knows these are coming, right? The official announcement was this weekend. Like, they already knew. And so, like, you think about this set that just came out with Shimmering Skies, had a ton of the racers from the Wreck-It Ralph IP in there. And then you think about, like, in a year and a half, are we going to get Cars, and what is that synergy with the racers? Like, there's just so much that they can do. There's so many different unique deck paths you can go with the different types of cards in the game. And I'm just incredibly excited for the future. Once again, it's like, you never know you're in the good times, like, while you're in them, right? And then you grow up and they become nostalgic and you realize, like, oh man, like, what would I do to go back and live through that time? Like, I kind of feel like that's the time that we're in now with Lorcana. You think a decade from now, we're all getting older and we're sitting back and we're like, man, how fun was that? Lorcana was just a year old. Shimmering Skies had just came out. Like, all these brand new enchanted artworks, the first like legendaries that had any sort of like unique detail to them, like that stuff. Like, I just feel like we're in the good old days right now, and I'm trying to be present in that, right? And I'm just excited for the future, guys. I am incredibly excited. One other, and just like, this is kind of irrelevant to the topic, but I did see a let's see here. I saw a really good post. We haven't looked at Reddit for a while, but I saw a really good. Oh yeah, this is it. So there's multiple of them. You saw a Yu-Gi-Oh one just below this, but then there's this one. So how do you get into this game? When I first heard about Lorcana, it didn't super appeal to me. But recently at Gen Con, I had someone describe it to me as Magic without mana screws, floods, and that really appealed to me. I've been a Magic player for years, and that's the thing I hate most about the game. I don't know anyone who plays wants to, though, and the nearest card store requires me to drive all the way downtown, something I try to avoid because I hate driving in the city. So what can I do? Magic has things like Magic the Gathering Online and MTG Arena. Does Lorcana have anything like that? I saw there was a full online version that Disney recently shut down. I would be willing to play for an official app, etc. This, we've seen so many. I mean, there's probably like a post like this like every week or maybe every couple days of someone coming from another TCG. They were originally like, oh, that's Disney. Like, meh, I'm good. It's just a money grab after all the Chapter 1 scalping that happened. And then they start to see that it's kind of building this community. They start to hear more about it. They go to these different conventions, and suddenly something triggers like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And then once this person starts opening some packs, opening a starter deck, whatever it is, they're a TCG player. This is their home. This isn't even, in my opinion, what Disney and Ravensburger can do well. They can bring people from outside the scope. They can get people going on cruises. They can get people going to their parks. They can get people watching their Disney Plus app and do things like that. Like, their reach is different than any other TCG. But at the same time, they even built a really, really awesome game that is getting people from other TCGs. That market is like, I've pretty much written off the current TCG market because everyone is so combative. Like, Lorcana needs to fail. Lorcana is the worst. Disney sucks. Woke Disney, blah, blah, blah. Like, everyone has all these bad things to say about it. When, once again, if Lorcana succeeds, it's just going to, a rising tide raises all ships. I firmly believe that that's the case with Lorcana. And at the end of the day, I think that we're just going to continue to see more and more and more of this. When I went to the Shimmering Skies release at my LGS, there was probably, I don't know, 4 to 5 times the amount of people that were at the Inklings release. I didn't get to go for Ursula's Return, but the Inklings release, it was up substantially. And I just feel like that's going to be a continuing trend. They were taking down Yu-Gi-Oh stuff in the store to put up Lorcana stuff. They're expanding their cases of what Lorcana's in stock. There's just so many signs of a really tremendous thing going on right now, and so I want to just take a step back and talk about it. So there's my 21-minute rant of Lorcana and Pixar, and just how excited I am to be involved in the current iteration of Lorcana, and kind of getting in early and being able to enjoy this with my family, and continue to collect and play over time. Fully intend to get my kids on board. My wife's getting very close. So we'll probably be playing in the very near future. And yeah, I'm just excited. So wanted to make a video about that. No market talk today, just taking a step back and really looking at the Pixar inclusion, what all that brings along with it, and yeah, the level of excitement overall. So please let me know your guys' thoughts on Pixar joining Lorcana. Obviously, I'm very, very excited as someone who, once again, was 5 when Toy Story was released. My son's gonna be 5 when Toy Story 6 comes out. He already loves it. He already has like Woody PJs, and he dressed up or wants to dress up for like Woody and Buzz for Halloween, things like that. Like, man, just the nostalgia combined with sharing that with my son. Like, take my money now. You know, people call Lorcana Porcana. I guess that's gotta ring true for me once the Toy Story set drops. So, with that being said, guys, that is gonna be it for me. We'll be back with another video soon. Goodbye.